Hey y'all, welcome to Masters of Brickjitzu. Today, I'm your host Ari, and we will be reviewing set number 71721, also known as the Skull Sorcerer Dragon. I will be running my commentary alongside my own Speedpaint, and if you would like to see the full Speedpaint without my commentary, you can check it out on my channel, Drowsy Dragon. Links will be in the description. Without further ado, let's jump into this. Cheers! This set's main attraction may be the skeletal dragon build, but it also comes with 2 side builds and 6 minifigures. There are 1,016 pieces divided among 8 bags, and this set will run you at about $80 US, 110 Australian dollars, 100 Canadian dollars, or 68 euros. The 6 minifigures include Hero Nia, Hero Jay, Hero Kai, Skull Sorcerer, and 2 Awakened Warriors. None of these figures are exclusive to the set, however, it is an easy way to snag half the ninja team in one fell swoop and acquire the main villain all in one, which is really nice. The ninja have very D&D inspired costumes for the season, having like knight-like armor over their classic ninja gi. This definitely sets the figures apart from their previous seasons. Nia has her spear, Kai has his sword, and Jay has a ball and chain. Each ninja will come with either a silver dragon shield or the golden lion shield, and it depends on the color of their shoulder guard. Nia has silver armor printing on her upper torso with fur underneath. Her armor also has swirly blue patterning, which gives it an extra nice pop of color. She also has a blue belt, some wraps above her knee, and a bit of extra silver padding in between. Like Nia, Jay also has the upper torso silver printing. It lacks fur, but the armor itself covers a larger area, and it kinda just looks a bit different. I quite like it. There is also a bit of swirly patterning on his armor, but it's a lighter color gray, so it won't really stick out as much. Still a nice detail though. Jay's legs are also majority dark blue, and like Nia, has wraps above the knee. Kai has a massive hunk of armor that matches his shield, and it covers a majority of his torso. Like the others, he has the upper leg wraps. I quite enjoy Nia and Jay's minifigures, but Kai's, it just doesn't gel with me as much. I can't quite place why, admittedly. Kai's design looks a lot better in the show with Wildbrain's animations, so maybe it's just a bit of bias there. Overall, I don't think any of these figures are necessarily bad, and they're still very distinctive. And moving on to the darker side of things, we have 2 Awakened Warriors. 2 black skeletons with helmets and gray katanas. Simple, but it works. We haven't had skeletons in Ninjago in a long time it seems, so it is nice to have a small comeback. And that of course brings us to the Skull Sorcerer. I absolutely adore his design. Sporting a black robe with bright green detailing, he has an upside down trinity knot on his chest. His robes say Dead Rise, aptly playing into a necromancer attire. His mask and hat are one single piece, and if you remove this hat-mask combo, the head printing somewhat resembles that of an Oni or something similarly demonic. His face never makes an appearance in the show, but I do think it's a very cool detail. One other smaller detail that I think is worth pointing out is that there is a small skull on the inside of his mask. It actually is kind of cute, and again, it plays into his character. He also has massive bat wings and comes with a skull of Hazadur. I highly recommend this minifigure, if only for its unique and super cool design. And now, to get into the builds. As mentioned before, there are 2 side builds that can connect, one of which contains an unofficial, unmentioned 7th minifigure. A gray monochrome figure of a woman wearing some armor and holding a sword and shield. This is meant to act as a statue, and let's just say that if you've seen the show, you might be familiar with this particular statue of this particular warrior. Nothing else said. Also on this build is the Ivory Blade of Deliverance. The play features of these 2 builds are essentially that of a board game. Because Master of the Mountain Wave is D&D inspired, all of the sets connect together into one big game. This also means that the sets come with 6-sided spinner dice, labeled 1 to 3, with alternating heart skull patterns. There's also 2 display stands, so while one character goes into the spinner die, the other 2 remain on the stand. As for the main build, we have the Skull Sorcerer Dragon himself, otherwise known as Griefbringer. Griefbringer is 14 inches or 38 centimeters long, over 12 inches or 31 centimeters high, and 20 inches or 53 centimeters wide. It should not be understated, Griefbringer is huge. He is one of the largest dragons LEGO has produced up to this point. When you unfurl his wings, it becomes very apparent very quickly. Fittingly, if a bit obviously, the Skull Sorcerer Dragon is a skeletal dragon. His shoulders are very broad and bulky, and he has massive wings. And while his black legs don't have near as much mass as the front, he's still very balanced and stands very well. He naturally takes a very aggressive stance, and the head build backs this up. Considering he's the villain's dragon, it definitely works. This build uses a lot of white, black, and gray pieces, but there are very nice pops of green that definitely add to the resurrected skeletal dragon feel. Even the wings play into the aesthetic, being fabric wings that are bony and ripped to shreds. Griefbringer also has 2 flags on his back. On both sides of each flag, you can place a sticker of the Skull Sorcerer's upside down Trinity Knot insignia. There lacks any sort of real seating on the builds, but Skull Sorcerer can just kinda stand there. Nothing too crazy, he just kinda stands in front of the flags. Although you cannot have Skull Sorcerer's wings folded directly behind him, they have to be spread out or removed. Which, isn't spreading it out what you were gonna do anyway? Then again, I don't know. I don't make the decisions here. This is your set once you buy it, at least. One other thing that I'm a big fan of is Griefbringer's tail. It swings around very easy, and just in general, I'm a fan of dragon tails that can just seamlessly wiggle around. It's very satisfying to me, and half the time when I hold him, I just tend to fidget the tail around. If you cannot whack people silly with your tail, is it even there? As far as Griefbringer's play features go, he has 2 stud shooters on his shoulders and will come with plenty of extra studs in case you lose one in your adventures. There's also a release mechanism along his spine. Essentially, he has like a green ore boulder container that you keep in his ribs. It's filled with bones and spiders, and when you press down on this release, the rib cage opens, busting the container and releasing said bones and spiders. At least in theory. The reality is that if he's just standing there, the container will not bust like it's supposed to. He has to be off the ground for this to work at all. Still, I think it's a very creative idea, even if it's not perfect in execution. I can only imagine being like an adventurer and seeing this beast releasing an ore boulder from its ribcage. It's just such a metal concept. Overall, I very much enjoy this set. It looks fantastic, and the piece to price ratio is pretty good. As I mentioned before, I love the look of this set. Even if you're not into the show, if you want a skeletal dragon, this will work perfectly for you. Even amongst its peers, it has an inherently unique look that I very much adore. This set is still being sold on LEGO's website, and you could also try to look for it at nearby retailers. Any retailer that will carry the bigger Ninjago sets is likely to have this one. However, as of writing this, the Prime Empire wave is retiring soon, and when that's gone, Master of the Mountain is next on the retirement chopping block. You may not have to get it immediately, but if you want it, I would recommend trying to get it soon, because that window will be closed off soon. With all that being said, big thanks to LEGO for allowing me to do this review. It's been really pleasant and just such a big privilege to me. And also thanks to MOB for allowing me to be your host today. My name is Ari, and thank you so much for tuning in.